Greetings, 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 and welcome everybody to the Melanated Hospice Nurse. I am Melissa Roland, the Melanated Hospice Nurse, and I just want to tell you thank you so much for joining this podcast, the Melanated Hospice Nurse podcast, where compassion and culture connect, has been coming to the forefront for a very long time. And I'm so grateful to be able to hold space for community when it comes to the topics surrounding end-of-life care and the dying process. So, a little bit about myself. I have been a registered nurse for the past 28 years. And I say that because I thought about it earlier as I was preparing for the podcast. And I'm like, wow, it's been 28 years and what a journey it's been. So the first part of my nursing career, for the first 8 years, I had the honor of being an oncology nurse. And I loved every minute of it. I loved being able to walk alongside of families and individuals as they were going through some of life's most challenging, difficult times that none of us can understand unless we've walked that walk, unless we've walked in their shoes. But being able to be invited into a space with someone as they're going through what is unimaginable, and being able to help guide them and support them and hold their hand and be there for them, educate them, and also listen to them and learn from them as they're going through this journey was such a blessing. And one day I had a conversation with a hospice nurse that came in to see one of my patients who unfortunately had gotten a pretty poor prognosis that she had less than 6 weeks to live. So at the time, the doctor recommended that this beautiful soul go home and finish her journey underneath the hospice care. So when the nurse came in, the one thing I noticed was that the nurse she was so nice. She was so peaceful. She had beautiful spirit. And she came in and she spent time with the patient. Well, time had gone on and I checked on them a couple of times, but then I realized she had literally sat at bedside with this person for 2 hours, talking with them, listening, guiding, planning what the end of life would look like, what that day would look like. And I was just completely blown away by that. First of all, any of us that worked in clinical settings, we all know nobody has 2 hours worth of time to sit next to a patient at bedside and just listen to them. We all desire to do that, but the care modules that we work under, they will not allow that to happen. So I was so completely impressed with the fact that she had the time to sit and actually listen to the patient. And the patient shared all of her dreams and all of her fears and everything that she was going through with the hospice nurse. And from that, she was able to develop a care plan that would help this patient get the things that she needed once she went home. So that to me was the first thing that really, really impressed me when it came to hospice care. But the other thing that also impressed me was the fact that she actually had an opportunity to help the patient plan her end of life journey. That to me blew me away. You know, we get used to care plans, and usually we make the care plans and we give them to the patient and we tell them, okay, this is what we think will be best for you in order to get you through what's going on, in order to heal you and to cure you and to get you back to the lifestyle that you're familiar with. But in hospice care, the person actually gets to do their care plan. They're the ones that get to make the decisions on what this looks like. They get to decide, I don't want any more treatments. They get to decide, this is what I want. They get to actually decide how they want that day and that travel and journey to look. So I was really, really impressed by that. So about 2 months after that, I'm on the floor and all of a sudden I get a little small voice in the back of my head that says, it's time for you to go to hospice now. And I thought, nope, I'm not hearing that right, because I loved oncology nursing. I loved the team that I worked with. I loved being able to be with the patients and families. And I just knew I would finish my nursing career as an oncology nurse. Nope, the voice came back. And I didn't tell anybody about it for about a month, but it just kept coming back and pulling forward. And I thought, okay, what do I do with this? And I remember crying when I made the decision that it was time to leave and go on to hospice. So from there, went on to hospice. That was almost 21 years ago. And when I tell you it was the absolute best decision that I made, was being able to become a hospice nurse. Now, I say that with all due respect because you don't become a hospice nurse. It's something that you are appointed to do. You are chosen to be a hospice nurse because in order to be able to be at bedside with someone, in life's most intimate transition, which is transitioning from this life to the next, is definitely something that you have to be chosen to do, because your heart has to be so open to it. And I thank God for choosing me to be a hospice nurse. I really, really do. So yes, I may have made the decision to leave one job and go to another, but the decision to be a hospice nurse, that was made for me. But in this journey, there's one thing that I realized that I feel that's missing, especially now, the way the medical care is set up and the medical module is set up, that we are so disease focused that we completely 100% don't focus on the person. We don't focus on the human being that's having this experience. So there's a void of paying attention to culture through the lens of compassion. And that's the one thing that we're missing when it comes to end-of-life care, is being able to focus on that person's culture and implement that as part of their care plan when it comes to end of life. There's certain aspects of us that culture plays a huge role in that helps to mold and shape us through this journey. So when we get to the end of our life, why is that part annihilated? Why is that part voided? Why do we not focus on all of those beautiful aspects of culture through a compassionate lens when it comes to end-of-life care? That's what the Melanated Hospice Nurse is here for. And we're going to make sure that during these conversations and during this journey, that we're going to hold space for each other, and we're going to make sure that our culture of who we are and what that means and what that stands for is also implemented in our end-of-life care journey. So important. And not only that, but through a compassionate lens. So every week, we're going to meet here at the Melanated Hospice Nurse, and we're going to have these beautiful, yet very often difficult conversations about end-of-life care and how to make sure that we're incorporating those very important aspects that make us all of who we are. Not just a certain part of who we are, but all of who we are when it comes to the dying process. Because it's the entire human that's transitioning, not just the disease, not just one part of them, but the entire human being. And I think it's very important that we focus on culture through a compassionate lens. So I'm so excited for that. So once a week, we're going to have a topic that we're going to discuss. We have a main topic for the month, and then every week we're going to meet and we're going to hit subtopics. So with that being said, this month's topic, which I think is something very important for us to even have the conversation when it comes to hospice, transitioning, death and dying, end-of-life care, all of those very difficult terminologies that we hear, that we all can say, oh, well, I know I have to die. I know we're going to die. That's something I know I'm going to do. But it's a little different when you get a prognosis that says 6 months to a year, more than likely, you will no longer be of this world and you will be on to your next assignment. When you hear that, that's completely different than the blanket statement of saying, oh, well, I know that I just know we're going to die. So the topic for this month is what hospice means in our community. What does hospice mean in our community? And there's going to be 4 key points that I want to hit on when it comes to that. What does hospice mean in our community? And I say that with the pause because what I'm excited about is actually reading the responses to the question from community. I can't wait to hear what you all have to say to that question. What does hospice mean in our community? Because for a lot of us, it means something different, but overall, we kind of have a collective understanding of what hospice is. I know I did when I first started nursing. Even before I became a hospice nurse, I had preconceived notions about what hospice is. I really thought that it was literally a place where people go to die. I really didn't know how much it was in the homes. I thought it was more in facilities, but I realized that the majority of hospice care takes place in the privacy of someone's home. So I just thought that it was a place where people go to die and, and not just go to die, but they help you die or they make you die. We've heard that term too. I don't like hospice. I'm afraid of hospice because they just make you die. They just come in, they just want to give you medicine to make you die. Absolutely, that's what we heard. And that's what we believe, and that's what we understand, and that's okay. Because that's what the Melanated Hospice Nurse is here for. We're gonna help break down myths, we're gonna help break down misconceptions and fears when it comes to what does hospice mean in our community. So the 4 key points. What does hospice mean? What's the difference between treatment versus comfort care? What's the purpose of hospice? Like, what is hospice's purpose? And why the misunderstanding of hospice exists. So, what is hospice? What is hospice? What does hospice mean? So, if we kind of study like how hospice came about, you hear stories that it was started back in the medieval times, and there was places that, during certain wars or famines or whatever it is for travelers that were going from one place to another, there were certain houses that people could go to get care, to get medical care. And for some people, if that care no longer served them and now they were in the transitioning process, they can stay in that place to actually die. And there were people there to help make sure that they died comfortably. A lot of the times, those spaces were usually run by the religious sector of whatever that community is. So fast forward to current time, hospice kind of came around in the United States about the 1960s and 70s. And the purpose of hospice, the main purpose of hospice, was to make sure that a person did not die in pain and they did not die alone. That was the main focus of hospice, was to make sure, because individuals were literally dying in places that did not serve them. And they were dying in pain because the dying process was not understood. And if it was understood, it was ignored. So that's how hospice came about in our current climate now. And now, of course, we have hospice units everywhere. We have hospice communities everywhere. We have hospice inside of certain communities. So now we do have access to hospice, but because we have more access to it, we still don't have a clear understanding of what it actually means. And the word hospice literally has come from the word hospitality. And that means to be able to serve someone with kindness. That's what hospitality means. And that's what hospice stood for, was to serve someone with kindness as they were going through the transitioning process. So that's what hospice means. But what's the difference between treatment versus comfort care? Because when we hear the word hospice, we automatically think, that person's gonna die. More than likely, that is true. And it's okay. But there's a negative fear that comes with actually hearing the word hospice. Because then we have to try to differentiate, well, do you still get treatment when you're in hospice, or is it comfort care? Like, what does all that mean? Well, treatment is usually when there is presence of disease or an illness or a sickness, and trying to cure or eradicate that so the person can return back to living in a space that they were existing in prior to that treatment. Or if we can't cure it, at least we can manage it. So now a person may have a chronic illness that they're living with. But comfort care is something that you do when that treatment no longer serves that person. It's no longer working. And now we have to change the thought process to make sure that instead of trying to cure this person, that we actually treat them with comfort care to make sure that they're comfortable until their last day. I listened to this one hospice nurse, and she's amazing. And she actually explained the difference between treatment versus comfort care. And she said, in hospice, when we think of treatment, or in the medical community, when we think of treatment, we think, it's a disease that we have to focus on. We have to eradicate the body of that disease. So we really focus on treating the disease. But in hospice care, which is more comfort care, we focus on treating the person that has the disease, as opposed to just treating the disease. The focus is the person and everything that that person is, all the different layers of that person. That's where the comfort care comes in. That's where hospice care comes in. And that's the difference between treatment, which is where focus, really disease-specific focus, versus treating the person with the disease. So now we're going to make sure that every aspect of who you are, your spiritual, your physical, your mental, all of those parts of you are being focused on. All of those parts are being taken care of. All of those parts are being treated as well too. Because although there may not be a cure in the physical body, there can be a cure in the spiritual body, a cure in the mental body, a cure in the comfort, in the internal part of you. It's not so much focused on the physical. So that's the difference between treatment and comfort care. And hospice is where you're going to find more comfort care than you're actually going to find treatment, because we're going to treat the entire person with the disease and not just focus on the disease. So why is there so much misunderstanding when it comes to hospice? Why does this misunderstanding, why does it even exist? Well, it exists because there's a fear factor. When you hear the word hospice, people automatically 100% think of death, which, yes, that is true. That is what hospice does. We make sure that we're here to help you transition in the most peaceful way that you possibly can. So when people come onto hospice, they think, oh, well, once you go to hospice, they're just going to stop giving you anything. They're not going to do anything for you anymore. They're just going to give you medicine to make you die. No, we're still treating, but we're treating the entire human. We're treating all aspects of you. We're just not disease focused, but we're treating every aspect of you. That will make sure that this transition is as comfortable as possible. That's the most important part when it comes to the misunderstanding of hospice care versus treatment, the misunderstanding of hospice in general. And that's why the Melanated Hospice Nurse is so important, is because we're going to be able to sit and have conversations that can hopefully break some of these myths when it comes to hospice care and end-of-life care and death and dying, especially in our communities. Because in our communities, we have no problems with the death part. And what I mean by that is this: we have some of the most beautiful, celebratory, pageantry style homegoing services anyone has ever seen. Nobody can outdo our homegoing services. They're beautiful. And that's how we honor and pay tribute to our loved one. Go to places like New Orleans, those funerals are celebrations. We call them homegoing services because that's what it is. We're going to celebrate the homegoing of our loved one. Nobody can do that like our communities can do that. But this is where the disparity comes in. It's the actual dying process that we have a very difficult time with. That's the part where we're struggling with the most when it comes to end-of-life care. Because that's when hospice comes in, is to help support that person through the dying process. We have no problems with funeral homes in our communities, none whatsoever. But when it comes to organizations, or when it comes to the thought process of someone coming in to love on your loved one and to help them with the transitioning process, this is where we have the hardest time accepting and understanding. And rightfully so. And we have a lot of reasons as to why we have those misunderstandings. And we're definitely going to hit on those in our upcoming podcast. Why we have such misunderstandings and such lack of trust when it comes to any type of approach to the dying process. But that's where a lot of our misunderstanding is in the actual process of dying. My husband used to always say, his grandmother would say, everybody wants heaven, but nobody wants dead. We love heaven. As a culture, as a community, nobody can out-heaven us. But it's getting there that we have the hardest time accepting and understanding. So that's what we're going to do in this space. We're going to be able to bring back spaces to where at one point in time in our journeys, not only did we have homegoing celebrations, but we also had ceremonies around the actual dying process. We would celebrate those spaces. We would hold spaces. We would sing. We would dance. We would commune. We would come together. Because what we need to understand is that death is not medical. Death is natural. And death is community. Death is communal. Death is family. Death is ceremony. Death is rituals. Death is all of us coming together. That's what the dying process is. It is not medical. It is not something that you can medicate and it gets better, or it changes, or it stops the process. But because we're dying in medical spaces, we want the death to be treated just like we're treating someone with diabetes, just like we're treating someone with cancer. But once the process starts, we cannot reverse the process. But what we can do is make sure that that person that's experiencing this process is as comfortable and as peaceful, and they get to do it the way they want to do it. And that's what we need to return to. We need to bring that culture and that compassion back to the dying process. And that's what the Melanated Hospice Nurse is going to do. We're going to have amazing conversations about that. We're going to be able to break those myths. We're going to be able to focus on those topics. So when I ask the question, what does hospice mean in our community? And those 4 key components underneath that. What is hospice? What does hospice do? Why the misunderstanding with hospice? And what's the difference between care or end-of-life care, treatment versus comfort care? I want us to focus on those questions this week. Because what's going to happen is, the way the Melanated Hospice Nurse podcast is set up is every Sunday, I will be able to come live and I'll be able to announce the topic of the week underneath the subject of the month, what the topic of the week is and what we're going to discuss. And you'll be able to come to this podcast and you'll be able to sit and listen and watch what we're going to discuss for the week. On Thursdays, we're going to have Let's Talk About It Thursdays, where we're actually going to discuss what the topic was of the week. I want you guys to write your questions down. I want you to put your questions and comments in the chat section, because we're going to actually go live and we're going to address as many questions as we can. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to that, because we have to understand that hospice does not mean giving up. If someone decides that they want to go on hospice, it doesn't mean that they're giving up. I'm not saying that a person can't express that they feel that way, but it doesn't automatically mean that, oh, you're giving up, that's why you're choosing hospice. For some people, it might be what they feel. But for other people, they're not giving up, they're giving in. They're giving in to what's happening. They're surrendering the anxiousness, the pain, the discomfort. They're surrendering that over to a place of understanding that there can be peace, there can be life. I've had hospice patients that once they've got the diagnosis and now that they're on hospice, their entire life changes. They start to live life differently. In hospice, we call that the gift of time. Because for most hospices, the prognosis, in order to qualify for hospice or to be put on hospice, usually the prognosis is 6 months to a year. Usually. Some hospices are a little more strict with that, but for the most part, it's usually 6 months to a year. Now, we all know there's individuals that some of them have gone longer than a year, but they remained on hospice, and some of them probably lasted for 6 hours.
Usually it's 6 months to a year, this prognosis. People get that prognosis. We call that gift of time, because what we've seen people do is, now that they have an actual time frame on their life, everybody's been, yes, we know that.
Blanket statement. But for people that have actually had someone sit down with them and say, everything that we've tried no longer works anymore. And because the disease is progressing at a rapid rate, or because something is happening in your body that we can't stop, it looks as if you have 6 months to a year left to be on this earth, 6 months to a year to be of this world. I have had patients that when they got that information, Their entire life changed. Their entire life changed. They literally started checking off their bucket list. They started less regrets. They started appreciating life more. Some of them started traveling to the best of their ability. Some of them started writing or journaling, laughing more, loving more, hugging more. Whatever it is that they felt they wanted to do, that they have been putting off, they start to do that. And that's what we call the gift of time. Because now they're living their life the way they've always wanted to live it. While the rest of us are still putting things off, still regretting things, still saying, I'll do it later. When they think or they realize, I don't have a later. I don't have a later. I have right now. So they start living their best life. And for me to be a part of that journey, for me to come in to a new hospice patient and explain to them that I'm not here just to make sure that your dying process is peaceful, but I'm also here to make sure that you're living life to the fullest until the day you die. I'm not here to make you die. I'm here to make sure that you live until you die. And that's the important aspect that we have to make sure that we get to. That's the part of the culture that we have to make sure that we're paying attention to. That we're actually being able to celebrate those unique parts of us during this transitioning process. Being able to accept when the actual dying process happens. And what does that look like for that individual? Who can I bring in to help to make sure that my loved one is living that part of their life to the fullest? And that's where the Melanated Hospice Nurse comes in, to be able to help that person celebrate life as they were given the gift of time. And I'm so excited about holding space. So excited about holding space. So next week's topic is going to be really, really good. And we're going to be able to really dive more into it. But next week's topic, this one really resonates with me. This one hits home with me because this is where we struggle with the most. And it's, why does fear surround the word hospice? And where does that fear come from? Why does fear surround the word hospice? And where does that fear come from? That's what we're going to focus on for next week's topic. But this week, I wanted to make sure that we were actually thinking about, what does hospice mean in our community? What's the difference between comfort care and treatment? Why the misunderstanding exists when it comes to understanding hospice? What does hospice mean? I'm looking forward to you all answering those questions in the chat so we can actually address those. Really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. So next week, fear around the word hospice, and where does that fear come from? So thank you all so much for coming on to this first episode of the Melanated Hospice Nurse podcast. So excited about this. I'm more excited about the community more so than myself. I'm so excited about the community having a space where we can come to and we can ask these honest conversations. We can ask the tough questions, that we can hold space for one another, that we can lean on one another, we can support one another, we can be there for the caregiver, be there for the loved one that's transitioning. Make sure that we have the resources, that we're guiding each other through this, that we're holding each other through this, that we're crying on each other's shoulders, but that we're being there for each other, because it's time for us to start taking care of each other. That's what community is all about. It is time for us to do that now. It is time for us to take care of one another. And the Melanated Hospice Nurse is just one out of so many spaces in our community to help us do that. So thank you for coming on. I look forward to spending time with you next week. But there's one thing that I want you to remember. May compassion guide you, and may culture ground you. Until next week.